What's up, Donald?
Hey.
Back again for
Back
another
again.
episode. Episode 8.
Yep. Locker talk.
Locker talk.
I've been looking forward to this episode.
Not locker room talk.
Yeah.
Locker talk.
Just straight locker talk.
Yeah. So we did last episode, Creeper Show. Thanks, guys. Thank you for subscribing. Thanks for all the awesome comments. Hope you enjoyed the last Halloween episode. And hit that like or subscribe button. Keep the comments going. It really helps with the algorithm. And we want to keep growing this channel so that we can keep delivering you awesome Team GrindKing content. And locker talk today.
Yes.
Donald.
Well, hold on one second.
What are you grabbing?
This one, because this is part of our conversation.
Oh, yeah. So
today.
we're going to be a little bit more structured today because you guys have so many questions and we want to answer them. All about the locker, all about what's going to be happening in the next couple months, how these are going to be getting out to and all these different things. But we've been testing the trucks a lot.
Yeah, well, Ryan has been actually riding the board setup where we got a prototype on there. I have another rider, Judd Heel. Shout out to Judd out there because he's my main tester and he rides really hard. He's the one I make sure that everything works properly, doesn't break. So Judd's a big part of the development of my trucks these days, and Ryan has been skating it quite a bit. How does it feel so far?
My body doesn't feel good, but the trucks feel amazing. I mean, I've been skating them. In all honesty, I'm not a good enough skater to be testing them the way I want to be testing them, so I'm letting other people out there get some rides on the board, trying different setups, but so far,
how's some of the feedback with the guys that I think you ran into some guys at the courthouse, right?
I did, yeah. So I was at the courthouse and I was seeing this guy who was trying to do a 50-50 on a round rail. Super little sketchy round roll. He kept trying, he couldn't do it. So then I went up to him and I was like, hey, do you want to check out these new unreleased trucks? He hit that trick first try, like not even kidding. He locked in. So I was talking to these guys for quite a while. I actually have video of it. I'll put it up at some point. But he felt that he could be more precise in the way that he locked into his 50-50 on the round rail. And as soon as he did that with the lockers, it made it easier for him. So to answer some of those questions people are asking, am I going to slide out when I'm on a round rail on the lockers? The answer is really no. I mean, if anything, it locks in even better.
Well,
and
yeah, hence the name Locker, because
hence the
whole point of this truck was to address this issue that I noticed from watching a lot of and talking to pro skaters, a lot of really good skaters, and listening to of pro skaters that are on the YouTube videos, such as this in the indie channel. I would say almost a majority of the riders talk about their grooves.
Yeah, no,
and how they love the grooves. So that was really when I started really realizing and talking to skaters on the street. And they would say, I really don't like to I hate changing to new trucks because I'm so used to my grooves. Mm-hmm. And the trouble, of course, with grooves is that when the trucks are at its best grooved shape, you're hitting the axles generally. And that means that the life of the truck is at its end. Yeah, right when it's at its best, it's at its end. So these trucks begin where those end.
And I think that's a really good thing to bring up right now because there's a lot of people concerned about, well, you're supposed to make your own grooves and your grooves are supposed to be developed for yourself. But the thing is, I've talked to a lot of people too, where they might get their grooves that they dislike. I was actually talking to a pro the other day over in Koreatown at Jay Kwan, and he was talking about how he's doing crooks on his trucks. He was riding Thunders, I think. And the groove got so bad that it was actually messing his performance up because it was so off center from the middle of the axle that it was actually like locking him out, where the crooks weren't grinding as best as they were a little bit before that. So there is a point where when your grooves on your trucks that are your personal ones could actually hinder your skating. Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is that some people say, oh, well, that makes the grooves makes your truck's signature to you or whatever. You have to earn those grooves. My comeback to that is that these trucks are going to continue to groove. So you're still going to have to earn and develop your own signature grooves on these truck, which is taking it a step further. these trucks will. I'm interested to see when guys really start making grooves in these, because you're going to get grooves that are unlike any other truck before, because these are going to groove as well, but they're going to groove in the groove.
It's the groove.
Yeah, they're going to be extra groovy.
extra groovy. Yeah, it's funny. Skaters, that's kind of like the skateboarding version of a cauliflower ear, where you're like, oh, you got to earn these and to show that you've been on the mat. And I'll tell you what, I have cauliflower ears, and I wish I didn't have them, but that doesn't coincide with it. So it's like, what's the difference if you put the grooves there and then you have to earn the grooves? It's kind of skateboarding mumbo jumbo. Like it's mythology a little bit, I think, in my opinion.
You know, and that brings me to the first topic I want to talk about, which is innovation, because that's sort of the niche that I've carved in the industry in terms of skate trucks. And you know, some people out there may not know who I am or how did I get into designing trucks, and what qualifies me, so that does this guy know what he's doing? Is he even a skater? Does he have any engineering? I mean, how can you just design trucks? And so, I wanted to first say that, well, in terms of that, I've been designing trucks since 1990. So I started GrindKing in '88. I started my first truck in 1990. So that's about almost 35 years of designing trucks.
That was before I was born, Donald.
And I was, I've been designing trucks longer than this guy's been alive.
Yeah.
Okay. So experience, I would say, gives me some credibility. I don't know anyone in the industry that's been consistently designing trucks. I mean, some people have designed trucks. Fausto, for example, designed the original Indy. He's deceased, but he didn't change it really at all. Since I was sort of like, this is my truck, and that's it.
Yeah.
I have a different philosophy in designing. I think that anything can be improved. As a matter of fact, I'm already working on the locker too, believe it or not. And there is innovation is. Well, first of all, like I say, I have 35 years of experience, so that gives me some. And I don't just sit there and design one. I'm constantly, every day almost, I'm rethinking about how I can improve these trucks. So it's not just 35 years ago I designed my truck. It's like I've been continuously trying to improve these trucks and think about ways to make it. So that gives me the experience, I feel, is something that's to my advantage. But also, I have an engineering background. I used to be in the construction industry. I'm always trying to invent stuff and tinker around. I know I build a lot of stuff with my hands. So I think, and I'm a skater. Maybe not as good as I used to be, but I've skated for decades, and I also listen to skaters. That's a big part. I now that I'm not the skater I used to be, I have to. I listen to Ryan. I listen to Judd. I used to listen to Jay Adams. I used to listen to Daewon Song, who used to ride for GrindKing. So it's an important part to be a good listener. And that's why this Team GrindKing, the idea of having this podcast and Team GrindKing, is now I can listen to all you skaters out there that may have good suggestions for me. And I take those to heart. If I find they're good, that they may be good, I'm working on them on a constant basis. So I think that gives me, to people that may not know who I am, credibility as a skate truck designer. 35 years of doing this, you learn a few things.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know this. The locker itself is 12 years in the making, pretty much, right? That's how long you've been.
Not the locker. Locker, I would say, I started getting the idea actually right when I came out with the Disruptor around 2018.
Okay.
I was showing some skaters at a park. This guy was really good, and I was showing him, hey, you want to ride these trucks? I was trying to get him to ride the Disruptor. He goes, no, man, I got these grooves. I hate riding new trucks. And he was all, that's when the light bulb went off. I was like, the grooves. This guy's just not going to part. And then I started watching videos and talking to other skaters. It kept going back to the grooves. And so I started studying those grooves. I was going like, there's something to that. I got to study it. What if I can make a truck with that? And the only way to accomplish that was to come up with the U-beam axle, which I'll talk about in a little bit.
Yep.
But going back to innovation, there's more to talk about that, because some of the remarks we were getting were saying, well, and this is the one I find the most funny, is like, there's too much innovation in this truck. Matter of fact, there was this one guy, I saw a video of some guy who reviewed the Venture V8s, and he said, and he made fun of he has never even touched this truck, and he's already given it it wasn't a bad review, he just kind of bagged on it, showed the truck and said, too much innovation. And it makes me laugh, because when I go back to the days when I first invented the inverted Kingpin, people, same thing, laughed at me. They were haters, and no one's going to buy it, that kind of talk. And, 30 years later, it seems like the industry, 3 decades later, it's like now it's a thing. It's like they're finally getting it, right?
Yeah.
And it's no longer laughed at. It's sort of like a lot of people like it. When I came up with light trucks, I'll never forget. It was like, oh, they're too light. No, that's just not. I can't ride trucks that light. Again, 30, maybe 25 years, let's say, that became a new thing. Like
people are still trying to make their
everyone's talking about how light their trucks are, and so the key for me in innovation is to solve a problem. Like someone may say, well, 7 innovations too much in the truck. Well, it would be if they were just for me doing it for no reason. Each of these 7 innovations improves the truck and its performance. I would say this is probably the most high-performance truck ever made, period. And I ask anyone to contest that, because, you can only take things so far without improving something. Your ability to skate is a ceiling on it at a certain point based on the limits of the equipment you're riding. Your deck, your wheels, there's limits. So when innovation progresses the technology, that also should progress a skater's ability. And that's what my goal is in designing this truck and future trucks, is to not make it just for the hell of it, but to make it so that it improves the skater's ability.
Yeah, if you looked at like a line on a graph at skater innovation with the types of tricks they're doing, they're going up.
Yeah, look
like
at Andy. Look, a shout out to Andy Anderson.
Yeah.
Here's a guy who is, he's being known as innovator, and a lot of people make fun of him. Oh, he wears a helmet. Oh, so what? It makes him different. I would say
safer.
If you really want to be independent,
yeah,
you should venture into riding trucks like GrindKing or supporting Andy Anderson, because we're taking a risk by doing. Sometimes some of my ideas may be crap.
Yeah,
I can safely say a lot of my inventions for skateboarding didn't go so well.
But at least you tried.
And at least I tried. So to those out there that can understand what I'm saying, is like, it's important to support the innovators, because even though we may have a dumb idea every once in a while, we're trying to progress the sport. We're trying to make you skate better. And it takes some risk. It takes some, you got to be brave. You got to just put it out there, because sometimes it won't fly. Now, on the locker, I was, I went all out on the innovations, but I also, again, I have the experience to know what I think will work for skaters. It was tested. We didn't just come out with it without testing it. Judd gave me the feedback I needed to refine it, and we're still refining it. This is the Locker 1. I'm working on Locker 2 already. I don't know when that's going to come out, but I can assure you it'll be improvements from this, based on what the feedback we're going to get from skaters.
Exactly. And just to be clear, there's no official reviews on the Locker out there. There's not that many people in the world who have actually even ridden them. If you catch me around a skate park, I'm going to let you ride them and let you test them out. But all those people out there that are putting that out and being like, oh God, too many innovations, they haven't even gotten on the board yet. They haven't tried the truck. And obviously we're going to be open to bad and good reviews, because we want to hear the bad stuff.
Yeah.
We want to hear what's wrong with the truck, because
exactly.
GrindKing is all about innovation.
Right.
It's not like we're making these and then we're just stopping and here's your beautiful truck. This is about, okay, we've hit this baseline and we want to get to the next part.
Yeah, and I think that's what I want skaters to know. Our position is out in this market. There's a lot of competition, but GrindKing's position will be always to try and keep pushing the innovation, keep progressing the sport in that way.
Yeah.
You know, another thing I find interesting is this is how I kind of sum up skaters. There's 4 types of skaters. Okay, so there's type 1 is the early adopters. Mm-hmm. They to me are like the test pilots, like the Chuck Yeagers of flight. You know, they're not afraid to try something new because they are usually more experienced, and so they've ridden all the, you know, they know what's up. So they know when they see something like this, they can tell whether it's whether it's going to probably be a good idea or not. Mm-hmm. And even if they're not, they're willing to try it because they want to be the first guys to go, wow, I just tried this. It's next level, whatever it is, or it sucks, whatever that could be. These are the test pilots. They're the first adopters, and they're like me. They take risks. They want to push the innovative. Now, maybe not just even in. They're probably more likely to do tricks that are more innovative too because they think out of the box. That's type 1.
Yeah.
The early adopters. Then there's type 2 skater, which is the most of skaters. They're the bulk of the industry skaters, and they wait till a few reviews have come out. You know, maybe their favorite influencer has tried it, which we'll be getting these out to influencers soon. And those, after they hear the reviews, if they're good reviews, then they'll go out and say, okay, I'm going to, you know, that makes sense. And my favorite guy, you know, he likes it. So I might try it out. I'm going to try it now. So that's the bulk. Mm-hmm. So you got your early adopters, then you've got your bulk. Then type 3 is the late adopters. And the late adopters they're the last ones to try something. They're like very conservative. They're very stuck in their ways. They're like, you know, like just they'll wait for everyone to have it. And then once, you know, maybe their favorite truck company or favorite skater starts to ride it, they'll finally catch on. And it may take them years. Yeah. Like, you know, it's just like the Kingpin. Yeah. Inverted. It took 30 years for some of these late adopters to validate it for other skaters. Now everyone's like, that's kind of like a cool thing. So that's the third type. So you've got the early adopters, the bulk of the skaters, you've got the late adopters, and then the last group are indie for lifers. There are certain people, or whatever other brand, they will never change. Yeah. They've got a tattoo on their arm. They're loyal. They have this mindset that's you know, if it ain't broke, don't break it, and just keep going with it. And that's great. You know, I mean, I would say that, you know, at this point, a lot of skaters that are in that category have, you know, they're considered old school, or they may have a kid who wants to ride what his grandfather rode. Mm-hmm. Basically, at this point, you know, the trucks that most trucks out there, in my opinion, they're 2 generations. Basically, your grandfather was riding that. If you're a Gen Zer, your grandfather was riding those same trucks. Yeah. And so, you know, that to me is I find it a joke, because it's like, I don't want to be riding my grandfather's truck. You know, I mean, this is a new generation. This new generation, they are embracing change. They want stuff that is matched to what they're doing these, not what they did in the 80s. Yeah. This is 2025. I mean, come on.
There's a place for nostalgia, but at the same time,
it's time to take stuff to the next level. Yeah. I mean, we're in the future is now.
Especially when it comes to sports.
Especially sports.
Especially extreme sports.
Extreme sport. I mean, you're putting for example, the Kingpin. You know, the Kingpin is the same freaking Kingpin, basically, on most trucks, as was in the roller skates in the like 60s, I think, 60s, 70s. It had the same basic Kingpin size, everything. The stresses that are being put on Kingpins with the big tricks now, they'll break they break all the time. I'm sure skaters out there I bet you many skaters, if not most hardcore skaters, have broken Kingpins. That can be very dangerous. That could cost you a hospital trip. Okay, so this truck, because the Kingpin system has been upgraded to be the strongest Kingpin system in the world, I guarantee these Kingpins are guaranteed. if you buy the locker and you ever break a Kingpin, we'll send you a new one for free.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of innovation, is improving things like that. So I'm going to start talking about these, what makes this a high performance truck. And it's funny, this one guy that he's maybe one of our ambassadors, this guy Vaughn.
Yeah.
He was saying to me that he thinks that there's a problem with these trucks.
There is.
Yeah, he says that he doesn't think that they will be allowed in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And maybe this is extreme, but he says it's just not fair. This truck is so much better that they may ban it from the Olympics because it's just an unfair advantage.
But the Russians will ride them, though.
Yeah. Well, fuck the Olympics. We don't care. I hope that happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, actually,
they might get banned for it.
Yeah,
It will be the steroids
banned from
of
the
skateboarding.
Olympics. What a great ad.
Yeah. Hopefully, we don't have juiced up skateboarders soon
Yeah.
in the Olympics.
Hopefully, they won't be banned, but you never know. I mean,
Never know.
it could be. It's possible. I mean, he's the one that said that, so
Yeah.
I don't know if that'll be something. And we have 4 more years to find out.
Yeah, in LA.
So that's so let me go. I'm kind of reading off of things. I want to make sure I cover everything here. So this is, one of my, maybe in some of my ads, I may advertise this as this is a truck for a new generation, because there were some people saying, well, there was some comments like, oh, some older guys might like it because this or that. I don't know why, but I didn't design. I'm sorry, I'm an older guy. I didn't design it for my generation, okay? I mean, we're all on our way out of this world, and I want to design this for the new generation coming in. They need something new. They need something that fits their needs and allows them to take it to that next level. And the new generation, I think, is more open-minded. I think that they're going to be better skaters. I mean, ultimately, especially when the equipment gets better and they've seen what can be done. I'm excited to see what this new generation will bring.
There's always an uptick in innovation when there's the need to experiment, and you always see that every time when there's a generation that's open to new ideas. That's when you see the innovation happen. Because if you are closed off and closed-minded to old ideas and you don't tend to experiment in anything,
you're limiting the ceiling.
You just go flat. You never break through.
Yeah, and this is a breakthrough truck. This is designed to break through the ceiling, and like I say, it's a truck for this new generation.
Yeah,
and of course, old school can ride it too. I think you'll find this to be quite a bit improved. But really, I'm really targeting that new generation. So that's answers that question. So now I guess what I'll do is
probably start talking about the locker itself and some of that stuff, right? I could pull the camera out.
Yeah,
you can go over some.
I think I'm going to go into now kind of locker lingo, I call it, which is because I had to come up with, because this has 7 innovations I've never done before. I had to come up with names, which was kind of hard to define what to call these different things. There's at least 7. Well, maybe even more as far as lingo, because there's 7 innovations, but there's a lot more. What these innovations do, and we're still discovering, which is exciting, is they're bringing new what's the word, like new a whole new way to approach the skate truck, in a way of looking at how these things affect the way people skate. Mm-hmm. It's one thing to create something, but then the end effect may be unknown, and it's still unknown because we've only been testing with a limited amount of people. Once it gets out to the general public, we're going to get a lot more people telling us, oh, this truck is good for this, or the truck's horrible for that, or you need to change this.
Yeah.
So all this stuff is super valuable to me, and I'm listening. Okay.
And just to say, there's so many different things that you can do with these trucks. It's endless. Like just the other day, I changed where the truck sat on my board, and then we were just talking about this. Is that I'm riding a board where the nose is bigger than the tail, and I took the tail truck and I moved it up to make the tail longer. But what happened is it actually made the board symmetrical.
Oh, yeah.
So the distance from the truck to the tail and the distance from the truck that's on the nose side became the same when I moved the base plate.
Which makes a lot of sense for people that are doing switch stance. Now, as also you pointed out, I didn't realize this, but Andy Anderson, he came out with a
flight deck.
A flight deck, which is completely symmetrical.
Completely symmetrical. And I need to put these trucks on that board because I'm curious. So
yeah,
might be making a switch.
You know, for me, that really resonates because when I used to, back when I had all these brands and companies, one of my brands was called Hazmat. And Hazmat was first a skate company. Eric Dressen rode for it. Gershon Mosley and some other dude, I can't remember his name, but it was short-lived because I went very quickly from making it a skate company into a snowboard company. And I don't know if that appears in the
I'll show them later.
Camera, but the first snowboard I made was the first in the industry that was completely symmetrical. I mean, the nose and tail were exactly the same.
Now every snowboard.
Now most snowboard companies are doing that. And when I heard the idea of this symmetrical skateboard, I was like, yeah, well, of course, it totally makes sense to me. And then Andy Anderson, again, who's a visionary and innovator, he has come out with a skateboard which is completely symmetrical, which totally makes sense to me, especially for his style of skating.
It also has a really interesting geometry to the board. It's not the typical popsicle deck.
But what you did, though, was really interesting, and why I'm talking about this is that Ryan moved his back truck on typical popsicle sticks. It seems like for whatever, there's probably a really good reason, but the front is a little longer than the back. Okay, maybe someone could chime in as to give us the real reason for that, but it's not symmetrical. So you've got your mounting holes to where it's a little shifted towards the back of the skateboards. Now with the locker truck, what's cool is that you can shift. He shifted just the back truck forward, and now his board's exactly symmetrical.
I thought it would do the opposite, but if anything, it just because some people I've seen, they just decide to ride their nose as the tail because it has, I think, more pop. When I moved the truck up, I felt really stable on my board because of that symmetry. So like the way that I placed my feet, I like to always have my foot on the back tail. I felt like I had more room to feel my board underneath me, even though I narrowed the width of the base plates, which is, interesting. But it's stuff like that we want when you guys get these trucks. You're going to be trying all kinds of different things. You might move one truck up. You might move one truck back. You might change the bushing system. There's so many different things.
I might as well talk about this. Okay, since we're talking about that, I'm going to mark this off as I'm going to talk about all the innovations. And this particular innovation we're talking about is what I'm terming the plus-minus wheelbase system. So the reason why I say plus-minus is that not only does it allow you to decrease your wheelbase so that it's, your board will turn tighter because you're pulling your trucks inwards, or you could pull one in or one back, like he did just the back to make it symmetrical. That's one way. Yeah. But you can also, there's not, even though there's just 3 different positions in the truck base plate, that allows you to do 9 different positions on your board because check this out, you can move it 1 in, like he did. You can move 2 in, which makes it really a tight wheelbase, or you can move 1 out to make your wheelbase wider. You can move both out to make it, let's say you're going to bomb some crazy hill, move both out, make it super stable and wide. But get this is where it really is cool. Let's say you like the wheelbase, you're familiar with the wheelbase that the board has stock, and you just don't want to increase it or decrease the wheelbase. You can actually shift the wheelbase. So you could actually shift it one way or the other so that you keep your same wheelbase, but you just shift it on your board, which is something that has never been able to be done before.
I haven't tried it.
So
have to do it.
So there's 9, which can be maybe frustrating because you're going to have to really find the sweet spot for what you're doing, or depending on what terrain you're riding, you will have to experiment with the 9 different positions that this affords you to do.
Yeah. Plus or minus.
Plus or minus.
Truck math.
Plus minus wheelbase. Yeah. So that's the plus minus wheelbase system. Okay, so the next one I'm going to go with what I call just the, I guess, grooved hanger, or groovy hanger, grooved hanger. And so this is what we're talking about here, is obviously this. Now, if you notice the groove here, these peaks right here are kind of high. And this is the first prototype. On the production, these are going to be down. The grooves are still going to be there and as low, but this little horn, these little peaks here, are going to be a little bit mellowed down. And the reason for that is Judd was writing, and he says, well, when you're doing just flat ledges, this could maybe prevent you from going all the way to the wheel. So I mellowed it out a little bit so that you can just slide into the wheel much easier, lock into the wheel. Because that's really where the lock is most felt, is when you hit that wheel, it stops you. So you don't want this to stop you before it hits the wheel. So I turned this into a much more of a mellow end. So you slide in and then you lock into your wheel. So that was one of the improvements on the Locker 1, because this is just a prototype of the Locker. The Locker 1 has a couple other things I improved from this prototype, which you'll see that new production sample soon, hopefully within a week or two. So going back to the grooved hanger, people will say, well, we talked about a little bit earlier. It's like, well, what's going to happen if you want your own groove? Well, you're going to groove this. Everyone's going to have their own groove anyway on this one. Even it's just going to be more in the right spot rather than randomly and working your way towards there, where if you start your groove off wrong, let's say, it could end up hindering you. This starts you off in the perfect spot, so that from there you can take it, and we'll see what happens when it gets really deep. I mean, that might be curious. That's going to be a whole nother can of worms no one's ever experienced before. Everyone only gets to go to the axle and it stops. It's grooves within grooves. This starts at that point. So this starts at that point to where the grooves are going to go beyond the axle. Mm-hmm. So, that beyond the axle grooves is skateboarding inception. Maybe we'll have to have a contest who gets down to the deepest grooves. Deepest grooves. So, okay, so that's the grooved hanger. Then I want to talk about the U-beam axle, okay? I call it the U-beam axle. And this is a prototype of that axle. It's not perfect, but it's pretty much like that. And you can see how the U-beam axle is this U. My original idea for this was back in the day was from the axle truck, which had the V-beam axle. You can kind of see the difference. One's V kind of shaped, one's U kind of shaped. And the U-beam works better for the Locker because if you can kind of imagine this bends down where the grooves are. So that allows, it looks like it's touching the axle, but the axle's down here. You can I scratched it away so you can kind of see, but you can see it's a flat. It's not a round axle in the middle. It's flat like a beam rather than a rod. And beams, that's why I-beams, in structural engineering, I-beams are strong. I demonstrated this before, but you can see this is a very thin ruler, super flexible, bends easy, right? But as soon as I turn it this way, it don't bend at all. You can't bend it like that. And that's just kind of how exaggeration of how the axle is. This axle is in the middle is kind of like this ruler, which I can't bend this way, but as soon as I turn it this way, there's no integrity there. So the idea of doing it like this, and you can see it's thinner here, same with the original axle. It's more like a beam. And you can you can then even remove weight because it's so much stronger. You can actually take holes out to an extreme degree. And it's still stronger than if I had just a straight rod. And, that's the beauty of understanding. I used to work for a structural engineer when I was really young. And I through my construction background, I learned about looking at at buildings and structures and understanding why certain shapes make things stronger, like the curved base plate, for example, is stronger than a flat base plate like this type of a base plate. Now, going back to the shape of trucks and the way how things are moving along, here's a truck which looks probably like something you've seen before. Many trucks look like this now. This is what I consider a generic shape. This is not what you think it is, even though it looks like the most famous brand in the world.
No brand name truck.
It's a no brand name truck. You can get this in China for you can get this considerably less than paying for the original brand, which I don't suggest you do. I think you should support the original brand because they created this shape. So I props to, any truck company that has their own original shape. But a lot of truck companies are now just copying, I'll just say it, Indy. Indy kind of has this. This is an Indy, but a knockoff. But here's the thing: this knockoff, it's an Indy. As a matter of fact, the person who gave me this said it rides better than Indy. I don't know if that's true, but that's his opinion. And it's very light. It's a hollow axle, and it's much cheaper than buying an Indy. That being said,
you could have your own truck brand.
Yeah,
put your name on it.
I support my competitor Indy. I think people should support the brand that's the original.
Instead
personally,
of buying the knockoff
even though
version.
there's a bunch of companies that are knocking off Indy in their own new way, and they added a couple little innovations here and there. But that's not my thing. I could easily have done this and put my name, but I'm never gonna just I have respect for them, just like I hope they have respect for me and don't try and knock me off at least right away. I mean, give me a couple decades again, like the Kingpin and other stuff.
Give some breathing room here.
A competition's good. But I think that's what you need to find in this world. Innovators, they should be supported, whether it's me or anyone else. I think that it's in any industry, it's important to progress that industry. Let's go back to the features here. So I got the U-beam, I got the grooved hanger. Okay, I guess the next one is kind of a fun one is the nut portal.
Well, I think I should tell a story before you jump into this one.
Okay, yeah.
So we were thinking for all these ideas for the locker lingo, and I was heavily against the name nut portal.
Yeah, because it kind of sounds funny.
It sounds really funny, and there's many reasons why I didn't want that name, but I'm going to publicly announce that I was wrong because as time went on and people started commenting about the nut portal, I realized how much of an amazing name it is. And then we had a discussion the other day about the locker's gender identity and that it's a female.
Well, it has to be a female.
It has to be a female.
Because you have to put your finger in there, and
to drop the nut.
It definitely, when you're doing that, your mind kind of goes in funny directions.
And it's curvy. The truck is very, very curvy.
Yeah, the
it's
proper.
Not a male
we'll
truck.
Demonstrate how to do that as well, because there is to finger this truck right. Is that you got to do it right.
You got to be really good with your hands. If you want to
get that nut in there right, you got to finger it right.
Yeah.
So that's it was. I was also going to call it the nut hole, but that could be maybe worse.
Yeah, that might be worse. But the portal sounds really cool.
Okay.
It's turned into a good thing. So I've been seeing the comments out there about the nut portal, and it seems like people like it.
And the nut portal, there's some things it does beyond just putting the nut in. There's other well, for one, it takes away weight.
Mm-hmm.
It also you'll see when it comes to loose trucks, it's a very important feature for this loose truck mode because one of the things that this is the first truck that's been designed for a very wobbly loose, like thanks to Daewon's song. Matter of fact, we have a Daewon song. We have a Daewon song deck. Daewon used to ride for GrindKing, and appropriately we have a Daewon song deck, which we're gonna demonstrate this nut portal, how to use it right and finger it right, so that you can get your nut in there. So okay, so should we do that now or should? Yeah, might as well do that since we're talking about it. Let's stay on point. You want to bring your? Where's your skate? Okay. All right, so we go this way. Here's our thank you day one skate, and thanks to day one if you're out there because you kind of helped me come up with this idea of a loose truck, a truck that's specifically designed for loose, but in the way that you like it. Day one likes it's like ridiculously wobbly loose, which is a problem for trucks because they're not designed for that. And they, in my opinion, it's kind of a little bit of a sketchy thing for most skaters, but not anymore because this truck has this feature that it is designed for. So right now, if you look at this, if you look at the truck, we're using just the one hard bushing. It's not the two bushings like you see in the way it comes, stock like that. You can switch, you can take, I'm going to show you here how we do it. Using your GrindKing 6-in-1 pocket tool, the only tool you can comfortably skate with that won't poke you, and you won't even notice it's in your pocket. So this, oh yeah, so you're not just will fall. Now if it's on your board, like if it was on my board, you have to just shake the nut out of the nut portal, so it'll fall out, and then you just pull that out, right? You can then just take this tri-cush bushing, which, well, also is another one of the innovations. This is the tri-cush bushing. Now, I might as well talk about we're going to talk about the tri-cush bushing along with the nut portal right here because they go hand in hand. So the idea of the tri-cush bushing is you have 4 different options, 4 different ways to ride a truck, which makes it let's say, I think it's 4 times 4. I think there's 16 different ways as a result of the 4 different ways because you could switch it on each truck and maybe just do it on one. So what you do on this one doesn't mean you have to do the same thing on this one. You might ride 1 bushing here and 2 in the front, or 2 in the, 1 in the front, 2 in the back, or flip flop them, or flip the hard bushing for the medium bushing. I mean, this is the most customizable truck there is by far. There's so many different options. You'll spend your rest of your life trying to figure out which one you like the best, but everybody's different. So we're going to find out what people think is best. And it's going to depend on the type of skater, your weight, your style. But here we have it to where now you can just put it in with this 1 bushing, which is insane. As you can see how, I mean, it's so low that you can't even, oops. You can see on Ryan's board, I mean, you don't even, it's impossible to hit I mean, get a side, can you bring the camera to the side here? Just because I want to, it doesn't even touch the Kingpin. It's so low. You can't even hit the Kingpin. But that's not what I mainly wanted to show here. What I wanted to show is this really, really neat thing that happens with the loose truck mode. Now, the way Ryan has his trucks here, they're not loose truck mode. They're pretty tight. And you can ride it that way. There's no problem. There's room underneath the Kingpin for that. But what's really kind of... actually, I'll do it on this one because it hasn't... Let's aim here. Because I'm going to show them the proper way to do the loose truck mode. So you need to get this side. So the nut portal. So with the loose truck mode, you want your trucks like that, kind of loose, okay, super wobbly. And the one thing about it is that someone even commented, they said, well, what about if it's that loose, then the Kingpin's just going to be able to go up and down, which isn't a problem because of the Kingpin brace, the sleeve in there. We'll show you that also. But see how that moves up and down? Some people may not like that, even though it's fine. But check this out. You take the middle bushing, and you just squish it into the nut portal, which it fits right in there, like that. I have to loosen it up a little bit more. And you push it in. You see how I have that? I have that bottom, the middle bushing underneath in the nut portal. It's wedged in there, so it won't come out. But as I tighten the kingpin, the middle of the kingpin shaft goes into the middle of that bushing below, so it just like really locks that bushing in there, so it can't come out when you're skating. So it stores that bushing there. But the great thing about it, now the kingpin can't go up and down. So you can kind of see, zoom in on that, Ryan, right there. See that gap? That's not able to go down anymore because of that bushing in the nut portal. And now you have this loose truck mode, but a stable, hard bushing around it so that it feels more stable. And it's designed for loose truck. So this is completely the first truck that allows you this loose truck mode in a way that keeps its integrity. And the great thing about the hard bushing, it will keep you from getting wheel bite of just having no, there's nothing. Without it, you just go straight to wheel bite. And you have to get used to that. With this, you have something that prevents the wheel bite better because you've got this hard bushing, which is like really firm. So when it gets to that point, you've got something there to stop the truck from just hitting your board. Again, this is new uncharted waters here. This is new territory that Team GrindKing, I can't wait to hear what you guys think on these different modes of how this truck works. There's so many customization modes of moving your wheelbase, changing your bushings, that it's pretty much endless what possibilities are going to be discovered by using this truck, I think. So that's, now we've talked about the nut portal. There's I have to say there's a hidden. We'll talk about that later.
What are you talking about? The other innovation?
There's a hidden innovation.
There is a hidden innovation,
and it's something that I'm not sure if we can talk about it yet because it's a little bit
you're gonna have to discover
controversial
it yourself.
Yeah. So that would actually make it 9 innovations, or it's 8, but we have to say 7 because the other, it's hidden. The 8th one is hidden. Anyway,
we will never tell you if you found it. You're gonna have to find that out for yourself.
Yeah, we might.
We might.
It might somehow it might leak out. Okay, so then anyway, what are we talking? This is one of my favorites because I started this. GrindKing was the invention of the inverted kingpin. Now that everybody's copying it, which is good, I have to take it to the next level, which is with the inverted kingpin brace, which makes this the strongest truck in the skate industry. As far as kingpin, that's for sure, which is why I guaranteed the kingpin against breakage. It's a hollow kingpin, by the way. And this right here, you can see this steel brace. It's basically a sleeve that's pressed into the casting, and now this kingpin, it's super cool. It just slides in here, and the shear point to where it breaks. Usually it breaks at the threads. Now, if you look at it, how high this is, this goes as high as the bushing. The bottom bushing is almost to the top of that. So the kingpin now, it would be to like this point here. Instead of breaking here, the brace goes all the way up to about here. You can kind of see the marks. But that's about where this ends up being. So you're way less likely to break the kingpin because the shear point of where it would snap, instead of being here at whoops. where's my pen? Well, whatever. I can just point to it. Where instead of the shear point being at the end of the threads, it's now way up here. So that, again, structurally, that's way, way less likely you're going to be able to break it because it's a solid part of the rod, and it's so high that the leverage is going to. It's just way stronger that way, and it also keeps it from wobbling because sometimes these inverted kingpins, because they're held down here, so they can work its way loose a little bit and wobble. But with this brace, it's more stable. So that to me is a huge. Again, too many innovations. Well, who likes breaking kingpins? Obviously, that solves that problem. Okay, so the next one is there is the wide. I call it the impact impact dispersion. It's shock absorbing, basically a shock absorbing base plate. And why is it shock absorbing? Well, the reason is because, again, it goes back to, if you understand a little bit about structural engineering, the wider you have, the way normal base plates are, they're pretty, maybe you can get the camera again. So here is a generic base plate. This is how most base plates are. They're just square, rectangle, and they've been the same shape forever. This is goes back again, 1970s, right? Over 40 years ago, you're riding base plates that were, literally your grandfather probably rode these, and everybody hasn't really changed it up until now. You can see how much bigger the locker base plate is. I don't know if you can kind of see it. Can you see it from there? Mm-hmm. The width and so it's longer, it's wider. It actually, you can kind of see how it flares out. And now, why is that a shock absorbing? Because the more surface area, the wider you can make your base plate on your board, it disperses the impact. Now, why is that good? Well, mainly because, how much boards today I've seen, we were just looking at boards, they're up to about $110 for a top-notch board. And if this will protect your board from breaking. There's a much less likely chance you'll break your board with the locker base plate than any other type of base plate because it has more surface area. The footprint of that base plate is spreading the load out over a wider part of your deck instead of a narrow little section in the middle.
It's taking way more of that impact too, just because of the way that it's shaped and it's curved.
Now, I remember back in the 70s or 80s when they had this design of this base plate this size, people weren't doing these big tricks. Mm-mm. So it didn't really matter that much. The Kingpin and the base plate, they weren't a big issue. But now with the common problem of breaking Kingpins and boards, which are $110 for a board plus tax, you don't want to break your board.
No, it's a lot of money to spend.
So this truck is going to save you money in the long run because you're not going to break Kingpins, which could be a hospital bill, by the way, if you break your leg when you break your Kingpin. But also when your board, that horrible feeling when you land a big trick and you hear that snap on your board. And what part of the reason that happens is also because of the straight edge on the base plate. That's a shear point. So if you were going to break something, you want a straight edge and you just snap it. So that's a very poor design, in my opinion, for a modern type skater. This innovation is very subtle, but it's a big deal if you saved $110 on your board that you just bought.
You can have that board last a lot longer just by.
So it's not for looks or just trying to be cool. I'm trying to save your deck from being broken, and hopefully, it'll last a lot longer with this type of a situation where you have this curve instead of the flat edge. You have a curve on the front, which harder to snap your board, and also just the wider footprint. So I call it a shock absorbing base plate or impact diffusion. again, these terms, we're still
We're working on
still
them.
working on them.
Yeah,
Maybe you guys have a better name for it, but what it accomplishes is that it protects your deck and absorbs some of the shock you would get from like landing big tricks.
Yeah, if you come up with a better name for the shock absorbing base plate that is sexier, like the other parts of the locker, then we'll give you credit for it.
And then that I called the bushings, by the way, tri-cush bushings, and that system, like I say, you can run it. Just to be clear, what I'm talking about, the 4 different ways, is that you can. Let me take this one apart. Or wait, what happened to the other bushing? The orange one. I'm missing that one.
That was it right there.
I put it in the nut portal.
Yeah, it's in the nut portal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me get another one. Make it easier here. So because I wanted to show the different.
We're an hour in, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we need to.
Okay. Kind of. We're getting close.
I'm gonna take this stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. Just so
Yeah. So here are the 4 different ways you can do it. There's this is the stock way, which you have the 99 durometer is the top. This is 96 durometer on the bottom. This bottom bushing is 96, basically a medium, and the top is hard. So you've got the dual durometer set up stock way. Now you can do this, where you just do the 1 hard, which is a totally different feel. It can be ridden loose or regular hardness or regular style with this configuration. So you don't have to do loose if you want to just try it like Ryan does, was riding it tightened up this way. Or you can do it this way, where you can take that out and just ride with 1 bushing here. And that's kind of a medium setup. And it's a very low Kingpin style that way, and it works totally fine like that. Again, it's different from the other 2 ways. And then there's this one really kind of unusual, the one that's most probably not intuitive, but you can also do this and ride it this way, which is kind of interesting too. It works completely fine, but it gives you a different type of rebound as opposed to flipping it the original way, which is this one on the bottom and that one on top. This one sort of works where you start to feel the hard bushing. It's just different, a different feel. Who knows what you like? Every skater's different. You will find the way that works the best. Now you don't have to ride it. You could ride it this way on the back and they flip it the other way on the front, or you could ride 1 on the front with 2 on the back. I mean, there's I think 16 different ways of the 4 ways I just showed you here. If you change it around front to back, it gives you like something like 16 different options. So play around with it is my suggestion. Okay, so I think I got. Okay, there's a couple more. There's one more thing I need to talk. It's really important about. There's 2 more things on the truck that are really cool as a result. One of them is this is another thing that's. I didn't count this as one of the 7 innovations, but this is something that's different. The slide, I call it the slide guide. That's my terminology from now on for GrindKing anyway. This area on the front here, which is where you do your nose and tail slides, I call it the slide guide because I'm going to mention that this is the biggest I've ever done on a truck, pretty much, or any truck, I think. Maybe Tenzer had something almost the same size at one point, but this is really pronounced. A big fat area you can lock in on your slide, nose and tail slides, which I think is important as well. And then this here, this is one of my favorite things that we discovered about this truck by just riding it. And it makes sense. Again, it goes back to physics. And if you've ever seen on cars, there's a term called low center of gravity. And having a lower center of, if you look at all sports cars like Ferraris and Lamborghinis, and even Teslas brag about this idea of having a low center of gravity, lower center of gravity, and by having the car lower to the ground, it's better for stability. So you can go much faster, you can get around turns better, because the higher you go, it becomes less stable and you're more likely to tip over. Now, what I found really interesting from this design, which you'll feel, is that this has not, I don't call it low center of gravity. Instead, I'm terming it the low center of grind. Because if you look at a regular truck, where you grind on a regular truck is at the top of this hanger, right? So this has all this material removed. So it's lighter because it's like it's a pre-grinded truck. So where you grind on this truck here is up here. Where you grind on this truck is at the axle height. So it's a lower center of grind where your weight, when you're grinding, you're closer to the board, meaning that it's more stable. You'll notice when you grind on this truck, and especially when you lock in, it's a much more stable feeling because you're closer to the board. That's why it's called low center of grind. And there's another amazing thing you'll notice about this design, because the U-beam axle also goes lower, right? So the weight of a regular truck, you have the axle up here, you've got the hanger up here. The weight is higher off from the board. It's further away from the board. With this truck, the low center of grind brings the center weight of the truck closer to the board. So not only does it give you more stability for grinding, but you can kick flip the board easier because this weight of this truck is lower to the board, allowing it to flip and spin in the air much easier than if it was further away. And I think that's a big, it's something that you'll notice when you're doing those type of technical tricks. You're going to notice how much easier it is to kick flip. So that's that. Oh, another question came in. One of the questions came in about, can you switch the disruptor hanger? Like, let's say you're scared of the grooves for some reason. Grooves scare you and want to ride a flat thing, which is, hey, everybody's different. And the answer is very easily. You can take this locker hanger off and just swap it for a disruptor hanger. Let me get that. And you have this is how it looks. It looks really cool too. So you can actually, you just swap that out and you have a regular hanger with all the features of the base plate. And it looks pretty cool too. So that's just, and we're going to offer this, we're going to offer a special deal for people that may want both or try it. That's another option, is straight hanger versus grooved hanger. We're going to offer that on the kick flipper when we announce the exact date. There's going to be a special package deal where you can get a disruptor for like unheard of low price with the locker for a limited time, at least for this beginning.
At least for the first year.
Kick flipper.
Yeah. So why don't we move into that a little bit? Because we did promise everybody that we'd answer some of your questions on that Instagram post. So let's get through some of those, and then we're going to talk a little bit about where we're going to get to with the locker and a little bit of information on, when these are going to actually hit the market,
that'll be
when
the
you're going to
last
be able
part,
to get them.
Okay.
Code.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to go through these questions.
Here's the main questions that were asked that kind of go with, because some people ask a similar or same question. You can find out who asked. Okay.
All right. So first of all, let's just go through them. I'm going to rapid fire these for you.
Okay. Yeah.
What is the height of the truck? Bottom of base plate to center of axle. Narcissus. Thank you for the question.
Yeah. Okay, that's 55 millimeter. It's approximately the same as like if you want to know a familiar truck, it's like an Indy or even a Disruptor. Those are both about 55 millimeters, so that it's about that size. It's probably mid height.
Okay. Skater Done off of Instagram. What kind of aluminum? Cold forged, perhaps?
The type of aluminum most trucks are made, including this one, is called A356, and it's heat treated to what's called a T6. So it's A356 aluminum heated to T6, which is a standard industry aluminum for trucks. Unless you go to like magnesium or something, that's pretty much what everybody's using. And the reason why they use it is because it's light, it's strong, it's a great alloy for this purpose. You know, some aluminums are better for certain things, but for skate trucks, you want strength, you want, and you want, you know, the properties of being able to heat treat it and stuff. And that is typically what's called A356 aluminum.
Next question. Shreddy Mercury from Instagram. Will they also come out in raw or polished silver?
The colors for the first run, limited run, will be that orange, this kind of cool orange. It's going to be light blue, and there's going to be a dark gray, kind of like a battleship gray or whatever you want, gunmetal gray, I don't know, dark gray, and then the raw, just plain silver. So yes, there will be plain silver for those that don't like paint jobs on there.
Let's get another couple more questions here answered. What will the available, or here we go. Are they 8.5s Payne skateboards?
Okay, so the first 4 sizes available, axle width wise, will be 8.0, 8.25, 8.5, and 8.75. The next batch of sizes will start to get larger. They'll be will be in the locker series. We'll be going into the 9s, 9.0, and etc. Probably all the way up to maybe 9.75. But as far as 10 inches and above, it's probably going to be switching to the Thunderbird series, which will be a whole different truck designed for bigger boards. It'll probably be a little bit taller. And yeah, that'll be, we're thinking of doing all the large anything over 10 inches will be 10 and above will be Thunderbirds.
Okay, let's do one more question, then I'm going to get this out.
There was somebody asked about bushing replacements. Can you
use Bones bushings?
Your Indy bushings?
Or Indy's bushings?
The answer is yes and no. The reason why is because, as I showed you before, there's a sleeve in here. So this bushing has a bigger inner diameter hole to fit around the sleeve. I've modified other bushings before I had these custom made. I would just either drill. Drilling doesn't work that great. The best way I found is you get like a soldering iron and you just melt the hole a little bit bigger, and you just slide it on. I personally think that you should wait because these bushings are so adjustable. There's never been an adjustable bushing like this, and I think you can probably find something that may be better than you've ever felt with the stock bushings. I want to hear what you guys think, but that's my guess, is that because this has this tri-cush bushing system, this may be an improvement over anything you've ever ridden before. Certainly you can change it. It's not like you just get it and you're stuck with that. This is 4 different ways you're going to experiment with before I suggest replacing them with something else.
All right, so then I think we should end on this question to segue us into a little bit more information because we've been running for a while.
Kick flipper.
But yeah, so last question. Sorry, guys, we can't get to all of them. There's a lot on here. But Horace96 asks, what is kick flipper?
So kick flipper is what I'm just terming our pre-order system, sort of as a joke to mimic Kickstarter, which is a crowdfunding platform that I'm sure some of you guys have probably heard of. but we're doing the skateboarding version of it called Kick Flipper, and Kick Flipper will be a basically it's different from Kickstarter, because Kickstarter you're funding projects or ideas that have not been decided they're going to go forward with it in many cases. Sometimes if they don't meet their goal, they don't even make the product. With Kick Flipper, it's going to be a little different because you're prepaying for and crowdfunding something that's already going to be made, decided that's going to be made, so that the odds of you not getting it are pretty much zero. But if for some reason, let's say it couldn't happen, who knows, there's something happens, you will get 100% refunded, so you have no risk. You will be refunded if there's any, even if you, let's say you just change your mind, or you gotta, something comes up in your world where you can't afford it anymore, you need the money, you can just say, give me a refund. Yeah. It's that simple. So
it's simply a pre-order right now, but Kick Flipper is going to be turning into something a lot bigger.
Once we get going, we'll make it more of a very, specialized thing. Right now, it's just going to be, you go to the website, there'll be an area for where you see, let's say, the locker truck, and you can pre-order it, and you just prepay for it. But you're paying. This is the only time you're going to get, and we're only going to limit the first tier. There's going to be 3 tiers. The first tier, for those who jump on early, there's only going to be 100 of these trucks
of the first tier,
100 sets of the first tier. And if you pre-order it, you get it at a 30% discount, which is the most you'll ever get these trucks at that price. That's the highest discount you'll ever see them, and it'll only be for the first 100. The other thing that's the advantage for those first 100 guys that get it, they're going to be serial numbered, so they're going to be collector items. They're going to be 1 through 100, and they're going to be probably. I'm going to probably do some signature or something in there, so they'll be numbered and probably signed. So those are going to be
maybe a little art piece.
It sounds maybe like I'm trying to be funny, but I think you should buy 2 sets. Because the reason why is
one to ride and one to
you're going to
not.
want to, because these are going to be collectible items. And I saw, like, for example, creepers are up to used, not new. I've seen creepers for several $100s, up to $500 used even, because it's amazing, but they've become collectible items. Well, I think this first series of lockers, the first 100 with the serial numbers, you may want to get 2 sets, because I would keep one in the closet and keep one riding, and in 20, 30 years, I'll buy it back from you at the original price you paid.
It could be the Bitcoin of skateboarding. It's going to go up in value.
I have a feeling they're going to go way up in value, and you're probably not going to want to sell it back to me. But 20, 30 years from now, if you need the money, I'll buy them back for the price you paid.
There you go. Well, let's end on this. How about when are we thinking about getting this pre-order page up? We don't have an exact date, but we're coming really, really close. What do you want to tell the audience, and also the price?
Well, the price right now, that again, you'll get 30% off if you order them on first tier. Oh, let me explain the second. There's 3 tiers.
Let's do tier number 2 and tier number 3.
So after the first 100 are gone, then the second tier will be at it's a limited time, so you'll be able to get it for 20% off. They're not going to be serial numbered or anything, but you can still get them at 20% off until I think it was going to be like December 1st. We'll give you the exact dates soon, but it's going to be a limited time at 20%. And if you miss that, the third tier, which is a permanent tier, is if you're on Team GrindKing. If you've signed up and you've joined Team GrindKing, you're always going to get anything on the site 10% discount. That's the benefit. One of the benefits of being on Team GrindKing is you're going to always be able to get what we offer on the site at 10% discount.
And you can always join Team GrindKing by going to grindking.com. There is a form out there to fill out, and just give us your email and your name, and we won't bag you with a bunch of emails. We just send one every once in a while just to update you.
Yeah, and Team GrindKing gets first dibs on they get to hear about what's going on first. So that's the other advantage of it. Plus, we'll also have some contests and giveaways for those who have joined Team GrindKing. Will be in have some extra benefits.
And as
like
this
that.
grows, there's going to be more and more benefits as we
Absolutely.
start to move into the future. Okay,
So I think that, let me make sure if there's anything else I forgot here. Low center wheelbase. Yeah, that's pretty much it, other than the hidden feature, which we'll have to do that.
yeah, if you find it, let us know. I didn't even know we were putting that out there, Donald.
It slipped out. Sorry.
All right. What do we say? Hit the like or subscribe button.
Yes, hit the
Comment
like,
below.
please,
Let us know what you
do.
think. If you have any other questions, we'll try to answer them on the next episode. Hope you like this episode of Locker Talk. And the trucks are going to be coming really soon. In the next couple weeks, we're going to give you an exact date of when the pre-order page is coming up.
There's been a slight delay because of some weather is going on. So unfortunately, I should have had the new samples by now, but I think it may be within a week or two. I'll have those. They will be really. This is a 2025 GrindKing, so for the most people that are out there, they're just going to get them in stores. Figure at the beginning of the year is I think it's safe to say that they'll be
right in time
available.
for a new year.
Yeah,
for sure.
And if you can get them through, the kick flipper, the early birds, we'll probably get them. I'm hoping to get them before holiday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're coming soon, and we're going to keep you updated. We'll have some exact dates in the next coming weeks.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.
That's it.
Episode 8.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Peace out.